I was on the road in one of the command trucks. I was a captain at the time, and we got a dispatch for a plane crash at the Oakland International Airport. I was a half a mile from the incident, didn't see the plane go down, but I looked to my left and I could see the smoke column coming from where the plane had crashed, and I was the first one there. When I got there, there was the crash truck had already showed up on scene, and they had already put the fire out. There's a blanket of foam, and I could see four people in the airplane. I got up to it, and they were all moving around. One of them was crying out for help. Again, I was by myself waiting for the rest of our crews to get there, and it was a female, and I told her, I said, "Ma'am," I said, "you need to just sit tight, and we're going to get you out as soon as we can." She was badly burned. They were all badly burned. I did honestly pray for her to die because I knew she was not going to make it. And I knew we would do everything we could for her, but I honestly prayed for her to die before we even got her out. When you're by yourself, it's a little bit different situation. You're waiting a little bit, especially there. I still had gasoline that was pouring down onto parts of the plane and right in front of me, and so you just do what you do, and for me, it's after you get back to the station that when it really hits you. You're just in a go mode. You get that adrenaline rush and you're in that go mode. Okay, when I got back to the station, I remember it vividly. I went into the captain's office, battalion chief office, and I sat down at the desk, and the battalion chief looked at me and said, "How are you doing?" And I said, "I am not good." And I just busted out. I was sad. I cried. It was so sad. Again, I knew that they were not going to survive. But when one of them is calling out for help and asking, "Get me out of here, I need help," man, there was helplessness there at the scene. But for me, it doesn't hit me until I get back to the station. And I remember the township supervisor coming into the station to check on us. I look back, I'm very grateful he did, but I didn't want to see him. I didn't want him to see me crying. And so I remember yelling to him, saying, "Shut that door." And so he did shut the door, and I just wept with my battalion chief. All that emotion, it just came out. So I did go home that day, and I hugged my wife and my kids. That's always been a big thing for me, to be able to go home and see my kids and, like I said, hug my wife. Really important. My family is so important to me. In the aftermath, after the incident, the days after, I did have some sadness. I think that was the profound feeling I had. Okay, so I did experience some flashbacks. Definitely the gasoline coming down. I could see that. I could smell the gasoline. You go to start your mower, and you can smell that gasoline when and I realize airplanes run on different types of fuel, but yeah, I could see the incident. I could see her moving in her spot. I mean, this is kind of what she was doing, asking for help. Yeah, I can still see that when I see an airplane take off in Waterford, and I drive through Waterford all the time. I live under the final approach, basically, for eastbound, and I think about that all the time. When I drive by that spot on Airport Road where they crashed, I think about the position of the plane and where it was, and that can be very troubling as I drive by. For me, again, talking out makes me relive it, and I think that helps flush the grossness, the pictures that are in my mind. I think it helps flush those out. Not that I can't relive those, but yeah, I think it's very, very healthy. And what I realized too was there was other people in that group that wanted to cry and they didn't, and they were sad, and that's helpful too for everybody to realize that was really sad. That was one of the worst events I'd seen in my career. So to be able to vet that out with my own crew, my own firefighters, was tremendous. And for the airport guys, I know the airport, they hadn't seen anything like that. These guys had talked about that. We've never seen anything like this. Another situation that we had in the fire service, it wasn't our department, but a neighboring department did have a firefighter who committed suicide. And I was chief at the time, and the neighboring chief, him and I talked regularly. And when I got that call from him, I was shocked. And honestly, my first thought was, could this happen to my own department? Who could be in my department that might be at risk? And I remember talking about that very thing with our deputy chief after that. But I know how hard it was on the chief and the other guys on that department, how hard that was to try to figure out why, and then to jump right on it as a chief as to how to prevent that from happening again. You need to have a process that can help the men and women in the fire service or in the police force. You've got to have something in place beforehand, because you have firefighters that are dealing with financial stress, their own family stress, children stress, even health. I'm a cancer survivor myself, and so you've got all that going on, and then they come to work and are dealing with critical incidents. And so being able to give something to your firefighters is so important. I've said in debriefings, it's important that you're healthy because these communities make big investments in you, whether it's fire gear, the hiring process, training, the amount of training and cost of training, and they need you for 25 or 30 years, and they need you to be well for that time. And from my perspective, being in the fire service for 35 years now, I want to retire healthy. And so if you can create that culture in your department where you jump out in front and these firefighters will jump out in front and be prepared in their head for the critical incidents, that's a bonus. You're going to get longevity out of your firefighters. I think you'll get better production out of them. When a chief starts a program like that, it shows how much they value the firefighter as a person. And it's not just that they're another number on the seniority list. They're actually people. So they want you to produce, and they value that. It creates a sense of loyalty. And again, I know that for myself, that when we were doing those as a young firefighter, I felt like we were valued in it, how they treated that as important. And that's why I got involved in that years ago even, and just have tried to keep it going. Having a chaplain in your department, I think can go a long ways. That way you've always got some kind of neutral outsider that the staff, that the personnel can go to. I know in Waterford we've always had good chaplains that were involved that came to the stations. I know at my new department it's the same way at Rochester Hills. We have a chaplain that comes to the stations and meets with the guys every once in a while and participates in some of the public events with us. And I think to have a chaplain program that kind of ties into your CISM program is really important too. I think feeding the spiritual side of people, everybody's got a spiritual side. And I think feeding the spirit, we feed very well in the kitchen in the fire halls. And if we can feed our spiritual sides too, I think that's really, really important.